Hey HUD fans, Jeremy here for Heads Up Display. Today I'm going to be looking at a film fans of Japan's pop culture have been waiting years for. Of all of Japan's pop culture icons, none come even close to the legendary fame of Gojira, or as we know him here in the US, Godzilla. Join me as I look into Toho Studios' Shin Godzilla, known in the West as Godzilla Resurgence. Before I get too far into this review, I'd like to begin by bringing to attention Godzilla's personalities, as these points will become more important later on in the video. There are two different ways in which we moviegoers see the big guy. He's most commonly viewed as the king of monsters, a savior of mankind and a fighter of other giant beasts. However, before he took on that role, he was the destructive force of man's own wrongdoings, an allegorical being in the original 1954 film, and very rarely after. Now let's get right into the plot. The story of Shin Godzilla begins with a mysterious phenomenon that occurs in Tokyo Bay. Japan's Deputy Chief Secretary, Rando Yaguchi, played by Hiroki Hasegawa, believes this to be a large sea creature, which the Japanese government finds to be true when it appears on land. The creature manages to escape their grasps, but in the destruction of Tokyo's sea districts, they know it will return. Soon Japan must unite with the US and other nations to put an end to the fearsome evolving creature dubbed Godzilla. The plot of this film is a mostly solid narrative. One of my personal favorites, Hideaki Anno, both directed and wrote this film. It's got good narrative flow altogether, and it takes a real approach to what exactly would happen if the King of the Monsters showed up in modern-day Japan. It does have a crippling lack of pacing though. It's hard to sit through every meeting Japan's cabinet government has to go through in order to stop one giant lizard. Cutting a lot of these scenes down and also erasing the number of characters that were constantly introduced and reintroduced to would have helped this film seem a little more coherent. Seriously, we're introduced to every major government figure in this film. I know more about Japan's government structure than I do my own, and that shouldn't be the case in a film focusing primarily on some newt that just got left too close to a microwave or something. Still though, this film does a lot better what the American Godzilla did worse. Remember when I said there were two different personalities to Godzilla? Well, in Shin Godzilla, we see a film where he's a fearsome beast of nature, a metaphor for man's struggles rather than a giant icon. The Godzilla from the more recent American film tried to be somewhere in between, and that doesn't work well narratively. Many of you might be saying, well, Godzilla didn't even appear that long in either of those films. To which I say the focus of these films were never truly about Godzilla in the first place. The folly and struggles that mankind faces always take center stage, with Godzilla often being the personification of these problems. Whereas the original film focused on the issue of weapons of mass destruction, Shin Godzilla alludes to the 2011 Fukushima disaster and Japan's place in the scope of world politics. American Godzilla has none of this allegorical storytelling, and instead chooses to kill off Walter White 30 minutes into the movie, leaving stereotype Ken Watanabe to repeat the same 3 lines of dialogue, and generic Marine does American things. Also Gothic Mothra intercourse. Moving on, the acting was alright too, but the real thing that stuck out like a sore thumb was the visuals. The effects director Shinji Higuchi, who worked on the live-action Attack on Titan earlier this year, supervised and co-directed this film as well. While I did enjoy some of the visual effects, like the incorporation of motion capture for Godzilla's movement, the others were flat out bad. There's one scene in particular where the newly born Godzilla is terrorizing the town, and I swear, it looks like Jim Henson was put in charge of the scene. Seriously, it's like Kermit the Frog is rampaging. Not like they'd hire him anyway, he hasn't been good since the 80s. The hand that feeds him is biting, if you get what I'm saying.
Oh my god! Oh jeez, oh my god!
Anyway, the music is probably the film's strongest attribute. Shiro Sugisu crafts fine musical pieces that complement the action really well. In fact, too well. Given the fact that Anno directed this music feels like I'm watching Evangelion again. I mean, listen for a sec. They're really similar, and it raises a lot of questions. Like, where in God's name is Ava 4.0, Anno? You can't leave me in the dark forever. What, you're calling it 3.0 plus 1.0? The man could not even be bothered to finish his own equation. What the fuck? Anyway, Shin Godzilla is a film I suggest you take a look at, even if it's just once. What it loses in narrative and visuals, it makes up for in the spirit of Godzilla himself. Heads Up Display gives this film 3 stars out of 5. In any case, that's my review. And you'll see me again in the 4th iteration of Playing It by the Brooks. Funny, I never thought it would be so easy to take a break from my own series for this review, and still have the ability to tell others about my 4th piece that would be coming soon. Do you see how easy communication is, Anno?